On this episode of Exactly How, we're going to go ahead and set expectations on just how fast you can flip your first or next property. We're going to give you questions to ask motivated sellers that could be worth millions of dollars to you. And we're going to give you every script you need to start talking to motivated sellers today on this episode of Exactly How.
You're listening to the Exactly How podcast, where you'll hear the underground, closely guarded wealth-building secrets of successful people around the globe. Discover exactly how to improve your mental, physical, and financial health. Feel better, make more money, live, give, and prosper in today's exciting, fast-paced world filled with opportunity for those who know exactly how.
Welcome everyone to the Connected Investors podcast, Exactly How. During this episode, you'll discover exactly how to meet motivated sellers over the phone. Back in the day, your only option was to send direct mail. Not anymore. My name is Ross Hamilton. I'm the CEO of ConnectedInvestors.com. And today we're speaking with a guy who has been in the real estate business since 2000. He's seen all the ups and downs and lefts and rights. Prior to real estate, he was a teacher. However, left teaching to pursue his dream of being a real estate investor. Here's what happened. During one summer, Doug made more part-time flipping than he made all year as a teacher. So it made a lot of financial sense for him to go all in, quit his job, and become a real estate investor. Since then, he's completed over 100 real estate flips. Wow. I'd like to describe our guest as someone who's very focused and a great communicator. I guess being a teacher, you learn how to communicate complex things in a very simple way. His name is Doug Mainers, and today he is going to explain exactly how to have conversations with motivated sellers. Doug, thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with us.
Hey, Ross, it's great to be with you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone here is on the line listening to just audio, I want you to know that we also have all of these videos on YouTube. Sometimes we show some things that you can't quite get from the audio. So you're going to want to go over to YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Connected Investors YouTube channel. Now, Doug, a success trait that I see in you and has been a very important part of your life, having a very nice upward trajectory, is your ability to maintain good relationships. Why are relationships so important to a real estate investor or any entrepreneur?
Well, Ross, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you say conversation, because it's hard to build relationships without having some conversations. And I think that's key. And when you have genuine conversations with people, you really truly care about them, care about helping them out of a situation or whatever that might be, especially when you're working with motivated sellers. I mean, that's really the key, no doubt about that.
Yeah. I mean, people that are motivated typically need some sort of help. So being a good communicator, a good listener in any business, especially this one, is really important. Now, what makes the Exactly How Financial Freedom podcast unique is every show comes with a detailed action plan. So you don't have to worry about taking notes. We'll give you all of the steps. We'll give you all of the resources we mentioned, and also any of the free gifts. So all you have to do is visit connectedinvestors.com/how to get everything we talk about on this show, action plan included. In addition, you can get entered into a weekly drawing to get access to the pre-MLS. This is a $3,000 software that helps you find these motivated sellers. So you're going to want to go ahead and visit connectedinvestors.com/how to get everything that we're going to be giving you for free, and throw your name in the hat to be one of the lucky winners of that weekly drawing. In just a little while, we're going to go ahead and announce the winner of this week's software. So, Doug, before we jump into it, can we really define what is a motivated seller?
For sure, Ross. Motivated seller, typically what you run into with individuals who need to sell their home is for a variety of reasons. It might be a financial issue. It may be a situational issue. Maybe the house is vacant. Maybe it's in disrepair. It may be a situation where they need to move. They had to move very quickly or relocate very quickly. It could be a divorce situation, a probate situation. But typically what you're going to find is there's different reasons that people have motivation to sell and are motivated to sell and need to move quickly. And usually it's wrapped around one of these things. Maybe it's pre-foreclosure. Maybe they're about to lose the house if they don't sell it. So these are all reasons that people typically need to sell their homes, sell it quickly. They're very motivated to move forward and get the problem behind them, so to speak.
Okay, yeah. And they wouldn't list with the traditional real estate agent because they don't have the time or the funds to fix up the house. Is that why they'd much rather sell for a deep discount to a real estate investor?
Those are a couple of reasons, Ross. Absolutely. Yeah, those are things that people look into. Sometimes, they're private. They don't want people parading through their house. Maybe they're embarrassed because the house is in such poor condition. They don't want to wait on a real estate agent. They don't want to, in their mind, pay these big commissions. That they're thinking. So there's many reasons why individuals doesn't want to list their house. They want something quick. They want action. They don't want it to take months. They want it to take, they want this result in days and weeks. And so that's the big reason a lot of people run into that, and they're ready to just move forward. A lot of them want to kind of work, confidentially and privately. And this works beautiful for a real estate investor to work with these motivated sellers and give them a solution.
Yeah, I mean, as a real estate investor, being able to find deeply discounted properties is the number one most important thing. And the only way you get a deal is if the seller is motivated. It doesn't matter if it's a bank. It doesn't matter if it's someone who inherited a property, someone that wants to leave quickly. Finding motivated sellers is the difference between success and failure as a real estate investor. And I just want to bring up one really important fact here. If you own a house, you are a real estate investor, even if you just live in it. If you paid retail, you're just not a very good real estate investor. So it's in everyone's best interest, whether you're a real estate investor or not, to understand how to purchase properties at deep discounts because you're a real estate investor whether you like it or not. And if you're renting, you're in the real estate game, you're just on the other side of the equation there. So everyone on this line is playing the real estate game one way or another. This particular episode of Exactly How is very interesting because it's about contacting motivated sellers through the phone. And this is kind of a new advancement with skip tracing and the ability to find these individuals and their contact info. That actually is all in the software that we're giving away that you can potentially win. But Doug, let's set some expectations, right? In other episodes of Exactly How, we'll go through all the different types of motivation, motivated leads, like vacants or probates or foreclosures. We'll go through all that in another episode. But set some expectations here. Let's say you have the list, right? You got the data, you got the list. You have the phone numbers. You can do direct mail, which is very expensive. I definitely advocate direct mail. It's how I made my first $1 million. But if someone picks up the phone and they start dialing, even if they have the perfect script and they are a seasoned investor, I mean, what type of expectations should somebody have going into this?
Well, Ross, you bring up a great point because when you're working with motivated seller leads, they're called a lead for a reason. They're a lead. They don't necessarily mean a sell. They're a lead. And so it's something you need to keep in mind. One thing to think about is, motivated sellers make up about 3 to 5% of all sellers. 95% of sellers, they sell retail. And so you're talking about a very small percent. The problem with a lot of investors, they focus on the 95%, which are typically on-market properties, that type of thing, and not only off-market properties, so 3 to 5%, which are truly motivated. Now, within those 3 to 5%, there's different levels of motivation. Some people are ready to sell today. Some people may need a little bit of time to digest the fact that they're not going to get full retail for their house, or maybe that maybe they're not quite at that point, that critical point where they got to sell now, and that's okay. You're going to run into that. You always want to leave the door open to come back to someone. So if you pick up the phone, every call you make may not be someone who's ready to sell now, but if they're motivated, their level of motivation is going to increase as their problem increases. So ultimately, they want to sell at some point. So that's why you leave the door open. You always, let people know that you're available. You're here to help them. And people love that. When you leave that door open, leave them the opportunity to come back to you. But again, there's expectations. You got to realize it's a numbers game. You just crank through the numbers, and that's what it's all about.
So if I pick up the phone and I make one phone call, you're telling me that, number one, it might not even be the right number with the way that data is, right? Number two, they might not answer. You might leave a voicemail. They might not call you back. But there's a chance it is the right number and they answer the phone. And even if that's the case, you still have to do a little bit of convincing, correct?
Well, absolutely. As I mentioned, it is a numbers game for a reason. And that's the important piece you got to understand is that, you want to contact everybody. You're going to get the good with the bad, but it only takes one good deal, right? And so you want to keep that in mind as you're going through this. You don't get discouraged. You keep focused. You stay on, keep contacting individuals. And what you'll find is you will start hitting on people and say, yes, I need a solution. Yes, I need to sell.
Yeah.
It may be the first call, but most likely it may be the 10th. It might be the 30th. You don't know. That's kind of the fun of it. And what's nice about it is when you're talking with individuals, when they, no matter what their response, the beauty of it is you're helping that individual. And so Ross, I kind of related to this. If you have a waiter or a waitress in a restaurant and they go around and they're offering ketchup for somebody for their fries. And so they're going table to table offering ketchup. Hey, would you like some ketchup? Yes. Would you like some ketchup? No. Would you like some ketchup? No.
Yeah.
Would you like some ketchup? Yes. And the beauty of the waiter or waitress, they don't get offended if the person says no to them. They're just there to offer help. And so that's one thing I try to relate to real estate investors. When I'm calling individuals, I'm there to help them. If they don't need my help, hey, there's plenty of people out there that's motivated. And when you have access to data, that's the key thing. Is you have access to plenty of data, you can go through those numbers, and you will hit on folks that are ready to sell. Man, it's super exciting when you hit those. Like I said, you don't know what call it's going to be, but it's a persistence and consistency count.
So number one, you're going to have to go through a lot of, you're going to have to dial a few times to start talking to people, right? There's going to be wrong numbers, no pickups. You might send some text messages to people who don't pick up. When you talk to people, if they're not interested, don't get offended. Don't get offended. What's great is you're just one phone call away from a potential $60,000 deal. You're just one phone call away from paying off all your bills, from having the money you need for that vacation. So don't get all caught up in your head. And there are ways, by the way, before we get through these steps, if you don't want to get on the phone, there are companies that do this type of thing for you. And I'll make sure to throw some of that in the resources at connectedinvestors.com/how, to where you can just say, hey, make these phone calls, right? Make it real easy. Okay. I just wanted to set expectations on the front end here, because it's so important as we dive into this to understand kind of what you're dealing with, what everyone is going to be dealing with, and not everyone can be found, right? Some people are just off the grid. So, Doug, we're going to be calling motivated sellers. What would you say the 3 steps are for doing this?
Well, Ross, the beauty of it is there are 3 kind of main categories or 3 steps that you walk through, the building blocks, we call it, of a conversation. Because you mentioned at the top of the call, conversation is the key. And so there's certain techniques and things you can use in that conversation to build rapport with individuals and, build their trust, take time. Many times it's just a matter of listening. You mentioned conversation, but listening to individuals, and that's key. But the 3 steps when you first get started, you want to be able to establish a credibility with them, okay? Establish some credibility and interest with them. That's number 1. Number 2, that's kind of your introduction. You're introducing yourself. That's number 1. Number 2, discovery. You want to learn more about each other. You're sharing, obviously what you can do, what you do to help them, but also you're listening and understanding what, they need. And so I think that's key. And last but not least is qualifying, because a lot of these motivated seller leads, may need to be qualified. Are they a good prospect right now? And that's what I mentioned earlier. You always want to leave the door open. Even if they're not ready to sell now, it's hey, great, no problem. Hey, I'm here to help you anytime in the future. Here's my contact information. You always leave that door open. But many times, if you work through these 3 steps, people want to move forward. They're excited that they have somebody on the phone with them that can give them a solution to their problem. And man, they're super pumped about it.
All right, let's get into exactly how to do each of those steps. I wrote it down. The first one you said is your introduction and establishing credibility. Now remember, guys, if you can't write things down right now, but you want anything that we're going to be talking about here, the show notes, the action plan, everything is at connectedinvestors.com/how. So Doug, let's just talk about your introduction and establishing that credibility.
Well, absolutely. So the key thing here is you just want to keep it simple. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it. You don't want to overcomplicate things. Keep it very simple for them. Keep it very professional, and just keep it conversational. That's kind of the 3 things when you start thinking about the introduction. So you want to keep it simple, professional, and you want to keep it very conversational. So the main goal is just to spark their interest in you, keep them on the phone, establish some credibility, and you can, and again, Ross, we can even do a little role play, but basically you're just introduce yourself. Hello, this is Doug. I'm with XYZ Home Buyers. Here in the area, we're local home buyers. Just keep it very, very simple. The second step we start thinking about going into the idea of introduction is you want to make sure that you're, take the pressure off of them. If you're calling, let's say, a pre-foreclosure, you don't want to call them and say, hey, I'm sorry, you're about to lose your house, buddy. That's not what you want to do. You want to be courteous. You want to take the pressure off them. So it's much easier to say, hey, is the owner available? Mention their name. You might, hey, is Mr. Tom Smith available, or whoever it is? Also put to speak with him or her, whatever the case may be, about, we're buying properties in the area. And so keep it very, very relaxed, very conversational, that type of thing. And that works very, very well.
Okay. So just looking, you're not telling them, hey, I know that you have, your house is in pre-foreclosure or any of that stuff. You kind of let them open up and start telling you about their situation.
Correct, absolutely. So when you're talking with them, we have all scripts available. I think, Ross, you're going to provide that for folks that are on the podcast here. But basically what you're able to do with them is you're just very relaxed. Hey, we're with XYZ Home Buyers. We're buying properties in your neighborhood. Are you interested in selling your home, or do you know anybody that's interested in selling their home?
I like that. The do you know anyone?
Absolutely.
That's interested, because it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off them.
Exactly. And that's kind of the key. And that builds rapport with them. It gives them a chance to relax a little bit. And now if they are truly motivated, most likely they are, then they can relax a little bit and realize he's just not contacting me directly. He's looking for houses in the general area here. And they become much more trusting and more relaxed. That's
a really important, key takeaway there. Thank you, Doug, for sharing that. So as far as the introduction and establishing credibility, is there anything else there on that step, or that's worth bringing up on the show here?
Sure. One other tip I'll mention, Ross, is when you're talking with somebody on the phone, smile. You would not believe how that comes across. When you're smiling, you're talking to individuals with a smile on your face, it comes across the line. It's hard to believe it, even though they can't see you. But that's a real tip. That's a nugget that you'll get that a lot of investors don't know about. But just smiling when you're talking, it makes you sound more friendly, more approachable. So there's a little tip for that as well.
I would say that's a tip for life.
That's true.
I bet that a lot of people on the line here just smiled after you said that. And if you listen to the introduction of the Exactly How podcast, it's about financial freedom. It's about your wealth, health, and happiness. So smile more, right? It's amazing what it does for your vibe. And it's crazy, but people can feel that vibe through the phone. You don't want them to know that they're the 100th person you've called. Right. So having that good energy, that being positive, and, knowing that you have an opportunity to help someone and also make a lot of money, should make you smile.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Should definitely make you smile. So now you said discovery. That's kind of broad, Doug. Exactly how do you discover, the things you're looking for, and what exactly are you looking for?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Discovery is kind of a general term for kind of the next step. You have them on the phone, they're talking with you, you're having a conversation, you're building some rapport. So really kind of the next step when you're doing that is just, keeping it friendly and conversational, just like you did on the first thing. But also what you want to do is start, getting into the discovery phase. Once they kind of, you're talking with them, you mentioned about you're inquiring, hey, do you know someone that's looking to sell their home, or are you possibly looking to sell your home? You're trying to discover, how motivated are they? Are they looking to do something? Are they ready to move forward? And that's the key point. And just letting them know who you are. Hey, we're investors in the area. We're buying property right in your neighborhood, in your area. And what that does is it allows you to be able to start, having the ability to discover how motivated they are. Are they ready to do something? And then you can, from there, to keep it conversational, it's important to build in some things about variance. You might say, well, hey, I know that area well. Actually, my kids go to school right around the corner from you there, or something just to kind of relate to them. and get to know them. Hey, I got a friend that lives, 3 doors down, or whatever it is, so that they feel like you're just part of the community. You're there to help. You're in conversation. You're not some telemarketer, which we're not, And so we want to come across not as a telemarketer, but as a friend, as someone that here in the area that is familiar with them, familiar with the area.
Yeah, I mean, my guard would be let down big time if someone called me up and they were interested in, in my house, and my road is lined with oak trees. And if they were like, yeah, we're interested in the area out there, we just absolutely love, the oak tree lined roads and the big sidewalks out there. It must be great for walks, right? Oh yeah, I take my daughter for walks all the time. Just mentioning something about the aesthetics of the area or the proximity or something that, that might have sparked their interest in buying that house there in the first place, kind of helps you start building that rapport and kind of discovering different things. Doug, is there any other thing? Other than building rapport, are there any other specific things you're trying to discover on that conversation?
Well, there are. I mean, there's a few things. And the beauty of it is, without having to come out and ask them point blank, sometimes you'll have to, but sometimes you can kind of wrap it around a conversation. If they do say, well, yes, I've been considering selling my home, and say, oh, that's interesting. I know, that's a great area. It's very easy to say, so what's got you thinking about selling your home, or what do you have going? And sometimes people just say, hey, I'm relocating, my work is changing. Really, what kind of work you do? Well, I do such and such. And so it gives you a chance to start, oh, really? Well, hey, I know so-and-so that does that, or whatever the case may be. You're looking for, you may have to take a little off ramp at first just to kind of, you're not all business. You want to kind of find a place where you can give and take and kind of feel what they're all about. And then mention that, or hey, my kids, I want to get, my kids into, another school, or we want to move closer to whoever, and it gives you a chance to go, oh, really? So your kids go to school there? What grade are they? Or whatever. And just look for those opportunities to build a rapport, to be able to do that. Hey, I'm looking for, a couple acres in the country. I want to move. I got a couple dogs, and man, I want to give them some. But really, what kind of dogs do you have? That's fantastic. Just building, finding a point of contact, a point of something in common, and then capitalize on it and truly be interested in that, and let them know and talk about that and what you have in common there. Those are key things. And so you're learning, number one, discovering why they want to move, but you're doing it in a way that sounds very non-threatening, very relaxed, that type of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is you can add some compliments without being condescending, but you compliment them. Oh man, maybe they say, well, I'm looking to move in such and such out in their country. Hey, man, that's a beautiful area out there. I know you enjoy those rolling hills out in that area. I've been out there before, whatever the case may be. And so you're complimenting them. You're letting them know, hey, that's a great decision, or I love that area, whatever the case may be. So it's discovery, but it's done in a very relaxed way where you're not just grilling them with questions. Yeah,
absolutely. And then, as you're having these discovery conversations, if someone wants to move because they want to be closer to their grandkids, that's what you bring up. When it comes time to make the offer, you have those things to kind of fall back on. It'll be great. You'll be able to sit down and play with your, be closer to your grandkids. It'll be great for you to be where you want to be. So there's a great conversation you're having with these individuals, and you're trying to figure out what is motivating them. They are motivated sellers, right? So there's probably some financial motivation there, but just also some motivation to have some freedom of some sort. Freedom of this property that's a bit of a weight around their shoulders that you get to kind of take off their shoulders. And it's important to understand what they're excited about doing after selling the property. Doug,
well, there's no doubt.
Yeah, Doug, any other little tips on the second step of discovery?
Well, a couple things I mentioned. And one thing, you brought up a great point, Ross, with regard to that. You may be talking to a landlord. Maybe it's a vacant home, and you're talking to them. They're just like, man, I'm so tired of dealing with renters. And so you're able to relate that, man, y'all know renters can really be tough sometimes, can't they? I get what you're saying, and you're able to relate to them. And keep in mind, this is something I always like to remind individuals too, a vacant home, if a house is, the data shows that a house is vacant, but yet you go by the house and somebody's living there, you think, well, hold on a second here. But maybe that landlord literally just rented the house back out to somebody, and they still want to sell. You still don't want to discount that. That vacant home still may be a very motivated seller, because you may call up that landlord and they may say, yeah, I just stuck a tenant in there month to month. I had to do something. Man, I need to sell this thing still.
Yeah.
Don't ever discount that.
I'm letting my brother-in-law stay there for a while until he finds a job or something like that. Until you talk with the owner you can't assess if the property is motivated or not. So that's a really good point, Doug.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll add, Ross, I mentioned about smiling when you're talking. In the discovery phase, it's really important to use their name. So at the top of each sentence or every other sentence, just make sure you're using their name. Hey, Joe, or hey, Mary, or hey, Brandon, or whoever it is, and make sure you mention their name. It builds rapport. It makes you feel like a friend because you're talking not to them, but you're talking with them. That's a very important point.
Yeah, I mean, someone's name is actually one of the sweetest sounds to their ear. It's really, really interesting how that psychology plays a really important role in rapport building. So thanks for reminding me about that, Doug. I really appreciate it, Doug. Oh, that's great. Anything else in the discovery step that you want to talk through? Is there any sort of checklist that you use when you're talking to someone to make sure you're discovering all of those points?
Well, Ross, you actually can use a seller information sheet or something like that while you're on the phone. Just be careful that you don't become very robotic about it. But you might want to jot a few notes down as you're discovering things. And of course, it gets more detailed when you get into the qualifying. The next step, it gets even more important. But certainly in discovery, it doesn't hurt to take a few notes, as you mentioned. I mean, I hope that didn't slip by our audience here. Yeah. But when you go back to negotiate that offer, and you can bring their grandkids back up or their dogs back up when you're, formulating that offer, say, gosh, I know you're going to have some peace of mind. You're going to be able to spend time with your grandkids. You're making a smart decision here. Go ahead and get this house sold. I know you won't regret it. These are things that are great negotiating tools that set them at ease when they sign the bottom line as the seller. Yeah. I just want to throw that out as well.
Doug, that's probably why you've done over 100 flips. You've been in and out of it all around it. You cut your teeth in the teaching world, having to deal with kids, and everyone's a kid at heart. So it's really important to hone these communication skills in. For those of you that are listening or watching, I mean, can you see how just these tips translate to so many different parts of your life? Right? It's about your wealth, health, and happiness. This is a fantastic, refreshing course on just how to build rapport, how to communicate, how to smile when you're talking to people, and how that has an echoing effect through a lot of different parts of your life. I want to talk about step 3, which is the qualifying. But first, we have to announce the winner of the $3,000 software that points to all of these off-market properties. Doug referenced that most properties that are listed, 95 or 99% of them are on the MLS. This is the pre-MLS. It's how you find all the deals that are not yet listed. Software like this didn't exist a short period ago. Now real estate investors are having phenomenal success with it. And today we're going to give away this $3,000 software to Ryan Evan. Ryan, congratulations. The Connected Investors team is going to reach out to you, get you all set up with full access for a year. That's over a $3,000 value that you received just for visiting connectedinvestors.com/how and throwing your name in the hat. So if you didn't win, don't worry. Every week you can go right back to that site and keep kind of throwing your name into the hat. We'll give you all the show notes. We'll give you the show notes, the action plan, and Doug, scripts. We've been talking about scripts. Let's go and throw the script package in there as well. So you can get the motivated seller scripts as well. So you have everything you need to really get up and running. Great. So congratulations, Ryan. I look forward to seeing you on the inside and hearing all your success. So here we go, Doug. We have introduced ourselves. We've done some discovery. We're smiling and dialing, literally. Now it's time to qualify the person. Talk me through the qualifying phase.
Well, absolutely. Once you've had a few questions with them about their property, maybe their situation, you want to determine what is their next level of interest, with you. Where are we going from here? You want to start qualifying the leads, so to speak, and that's an important piece because not all leads are necessarily going to be good ones. Like I said earlier, they may not be as motivated right now. It may take them a week or two, a month, but you're laying the groundwork. You're keeping the conversation. They've enjoyed the conversation, and man, they're very likely to be, when you call them out, they're going to remember you and hey, I'm ready to move forward. But let's say they're ready to move forward now. You get into a situation where you want to qualify them. You want to make sure kind of step by step. So you have certain qualifying questions. That's really what we're talking about here. There's certain key questions you can ask, that can clarify their intention, but also clarify their urgency. Because those are kind of the two key things you're looking at. What are their intentions? What are their urgency? And so that's something key, to do that. So one question that, I like to ask, I've heard a lot of investors use this as well, is what's prompting you to do something about selling right now? What's prompting you to do that? And that's a very good question to really get to the root of why they're looking to sell. And generally, if you put a little rapport, you talk with them, you got to know them, they're going to open up now and say, gosh, really a couple months behind on my payments. I just can't afford to stay here anymore. Unfortunately, I just had a divorce, or fortunately, sometimes unfortunately, I just had a divorce and I need a solution. Whatever that is, they'll start opening up and they'll start sharing that with you. The other thing you can start doing is just kind of qualifying them in terms of, are they ready to move forward in terms of an offer? So you could even say something like, if I could make you an offer in the next couple of days, how would that work for you? Or something along that line, just to kind of feel them out to see are they ready to go.
See if they push back. They might be like, oh, well, and then you can kind of gauge how quick they're trying to move, so what you need to line up on the other side. If they're like, oh yeah, that'd be great, how about today? Then you got to go ahead and get that offer in place.
Exactly. But then, like I said, Ross, if they do push back a little bit, then you might just drop back and say, well, hey, look, I know there's some issues facing you right now. What can I do to help you with that? Just caring, passionate.
What can I do to help you with that?
A good fallback position. That is so incredibly key. Ross, I actually talked to an investor yesterday that used that. He contacted a motivated seller or someone he thought was motivated. It was a vacant home situation. And then they say, no, I don't want to sell. I'm saving, the property to give to my grandkids or something. But he asked that question, that one question. He said, what are the issues are you facing right now that I might be able to help you with? And he said that lady's guard came totally down. She started talking, and she was like, his name is Jay. She's like, Jay, she said, maybe that's not the best decision to save this for my grandkids. Maybe I'm better off selling it and giving them the money or whatever the case may be. She lived out of state. So those kind of questions really can build rapport. If you don't know these questions to ask, that's why so many investors, they may have had, even if they got 3 or 4 or 5 calls before yours, you get the deal because you know how to ask the right questions. And that's important.
That makes a lot of sense. A question, I want to go over a few more of these, but I remember a question that made me just shy of $200,000 when I was talking to someone who was in pre-foreclosure and they didn't want to sell their property. I said, do you have any other properties that you might want to sell? And she goes, well, yeah, I own a huge piece of land right across the street. And I'm like, And I wound up buying that land and going through the development process and made a lot of money on it. Actually, that was essentially the seed capital for me to start Connected Investors way back in the day. But I had a good rapport with her. I still talk to her today, as a matter of fact. It's random. I mean, don't look at these motivated sellers as an obstacle just to kind of get around or to pull one over on. Like, these are just people. Like, enjoy this part of the step. Some people, they might come lifelong friends. So these key questions are really important. Doug, do you have any other qualifying questions that could be worth a couple $100,000?
Well, Ross, there are a few more, but I really like what you said right there. Just by asking a simple question, do you have any other properties that you're potentially looking at? Saying, what if you had not asked that question? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's huge. So I hope those that are listening realize what that just made you a whole bunch of money if you haven't been asking that.
Yeah, that was a life-changing moment when I got that first check for just shy of $200,000. It's looking back, as far as those first few big checks are the ones that you remember more than anything. After a while, when you have a big business coming in and money starts coming in, it's amazing how it just becomes expected. But when you get that first big one and you're like, wow, I can do anything in the world with this. I can go out and buy a Lamborghini if I want, but that wasn't my style. I invested it all back into real estate and into this technology company, and the ripple effect has been 10 times better than I ever could have imagined. So that first check is really important, and don't let a phone number that you're looking at on a spreadsheet stop you from having that same type of moments, right? Because there's only a few ways to contact someone. You can do direct mail, or you can use your phone, right? So think about someone sending direct mail. How long does it take for that piece of mail to get there? Is that piece of mail going to be able to build rapport with someone? No. Is that piece of mail going to be able to, communicate what you can communicate over a phone? No. So the phone can, and a lot of people hide behind direct mail. Now, direct mail is fantastic. It's way better than nothing, but you have to do both. You have to do both. So anyway, if you only do one, I'd use the phone, right? But direct mail is really important. The costs can continue to rise over there, but it's still one of the best investments you can make. So Doug, a few more. I'm sorry I went on a little tangent there. It's just I'm so excited for the people to be consuming this information because it was so impactful on my life and the life of so many others. Any other golden nuggets or information or questions that you've asked that have led to deals?
Well, one question I really like to ask, Ross, is, how long have you been thinking about selling and what held you back so far? I really like that question because number one, it gives you, have they been thinking about this for a long time or is it very recent? And then what held them back? Because if you understand what's held them back so far, then you can attack that and show them how you can offer a solution maybe they didn't get before. And so I really like that question as well. How long have you been thinking about selling? And what's held you back from selling up to this point? That's at a root. You can learn a lot from that question. There's two questions, really.
Yeah. Great. So Doug, anything else you want to talk about in this particular step of the process?
Well, the big thing when you're thinking about, qualifying questions is you want to be able to understand their situation, but you want to make sure you're doing it with compassion and with care. If they hear that in your voice, if they know you're sincere, and that's where it's very, very important at this step of the process, because you are having to ask some tough questions. You are having to really get to the root of what's going on in their lives. And as long as you do it in a caring, compassionate way, let them know if they mention a situation, say, man, I know that's a tough place to be. Hey, I love the opportunity to help you out and help you get out of this situation. And be truly sincere, truly caring. That goes a long, long ways with individuals. Take the time to listen to them as well. One thing I like is sometimes people will start getting into a long, explaining their whole life and what's happened. That's okay. When you get them to relax and trusting you to a point where they're disclosing this type of information, that's a very good sign. Just relax, listen to them, let them share, because what's going to happen is you may be the only investor they've talked to.
Yeah.
Taking the time to do that. That's going to get you the deal many, many times.
Now, Doug, here I'm going to do something that's kind of something I don't do very often. I might want to apologize ahead of time. I took a look at the free download that's going up on connectinvestors.com/how, and the last two questions I think are the best. But I'm going to make you guys download this to get them. All right, there are two more amazing questions there. This is all of the scripts, all the qualifying things that you need to be able to implement this in your business or train people in your business to do this. It's free. You just have to visit connectinvestors.com/how. While you're there, you might as well go ahead and sign up to see if you can win PIN just like Ryan did today and have access to that software. So Doug, speaking of a small talk and making connections, I mean, you have a few girls, a few daughters that are in school now? Or tell me a little bit about your life situation as a real estate investor and a father.
Yeah, my wife and I are very blessed to have two girls that are in college. So they're really excited about their careers. They're enjoying life and very hard workers. But needless to say, that's I certainly don't have a lack of motivation when it comes to real estate investing, and that just carries over. I love the fact that I can lay my head on my pillow every night with peace of mind because I know I care about people. I enjoy working with people. And man, that just goes a long way in success in life, but certainly in real estate investing, when you've treated people fairly, as you mentioned earlier, Ross, you've treated people fairly. Yeah, you have to get the best price on the house that you can, but at the same time, you've offered a solution that you can as well. I love that. And so that's one thing nice about it. I rest peacefully at night, and something great for your family to see you working in that standpoint. It gives you a lot of peace of mind. You don't have to go out and talk people into things and convince them and get something that's not going to be a solution.
Well, Doug, I know you're still out there teaching. You love talking about real estate. You help so many real estate investors kind of get over that mental block in their head. So just to kind of go back to the beginning, expectations. If you have phone numbers and you're dialing, you might not talk to everyone. Just like when you send direct mail, you might get a 1 or 2% response rate, but you're just one phone call, one connection away from your first or next deal. So don't let pressing, 7 or 8 numbers on the phone, right, stop you from getting to where you want to be. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, right, you're going to keep getting the same results that you're getting. And remember, if you don't want to dial the phone, if you're like, Ross, Doug, I never want to do that, ask yourself, how can I still get the deal without having to do this? Maybe you don't like people at all, right? There's some people that, their whole insides just get tight when they think about talking to someone that they don't know. Other people can do it for you. There are companies out there that can do these calls. They're not going to do it as caring as you, but if you're coaching and listening to them, you can get them to have the same type of ease and same type of care that you probably heard in Doug's voice. So there is a way. Now, if you're just a hustler like me, I used to just knock on doors, right? So I forgot about that. Direct mail, phone, or knocking on doors. I would knock on doors and they'd open the door and I can see their house, right? I can see some of the troubles that they were having. I could smell their dinner, and it was I had to learn real quick to be able to talk to these people. So if you want a crash course, go knock on doors. If you're like, hey, I want to make money now. I want to figure this out quick. Knock on doors. While you're driving over there, as long as you're being safe in the car, you're making calls, you're knocking on doors. You're going to get a deal really, really quick that way if you're like, hey, I'm doing this. That's what I did in my, late teens, early 20s. There was nothing that was going to stop me, and it was huge. Now, having a family, there's a lot of different things going on, but you can find the time. As a matter of fact, Doug, we have a podcast coming up where we're going to show you how to find an extra 2 hours a day. Guaranteed. You've never thought of this, you've never heard of this, and you're going to find an extra 2 hours a day. That's the type of stuff that we share on the Exactly How podcast. So Doug, we're going to get into the rapid fire section of this podcast where I ask you a few quick questions, and I just want the first thought that comes into your mind. But before we do that, can you tell me how you think your life would be if you never left teaching, if you were still a teacher?
Well, Ross, that's a valid point here. Teaching, I love to teach. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. My students enjoyed me. I enjoyed them. I had a very strict classroom, but we also had a lot of fun. And so one thing about that is that, I still enjoy teaching. And so I enjoy having the opportunity to teach, real estate investing, some of the things that I do. But I tell you, a teacher, and I could be the first one to tell you I have the highest respect for teachers, and they just don't get paid enough. And so, unfortunately, for what they have to do and the things that they do, the teacher's salary just isn't there.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I got started in real estate. I just wasn't making enough money as a teacher. And so I had to look for additional income streams. And so I was able to start real estate part-time. And honestly, Ross, when I was thinking about different income potential, there's just nothing else out there other than real estate that pays like it does for the amount of time that you devote to it. It's just unbelievable. As you mentioned, when you start making as much money part-time as you make full-time, it's time to make a change, in terms of real estate investing. So, that was what I did. And obviously my life has been dramatically changed. We've been able to travel and do things and give more and support things that causes we believe in and provide my girls with a college education. I don't have, my girls aren't going to have student loans. We're paying all that. And so these are the kind of things that we're able to do that real estate investing has afforded me the opportunity to do that I would have never been able to do.
Yeah. And unless I'm mistaken, does your wife have a job, or does she stay at home with the kids?
Oh yeah, no, she's been home for over 20 years. So even before we had kids, she said that was her choice. She loves it. She does help me with my business. That's something that I like to bring her in when we're right at the end of a flip and let her kind of go through. And
I just wanted to bring that up, Doug. Yeah, because in today's world, it doesn't seem like it's even an option for either the father to stay home or the mother to stay home. And as a real estate investor, you can make as much part-time as you're making full-time. So you can still have your full-time job, flip a few deals, and then your kids can have their, your mother home or their father home, or you can give them the comforts that they need to be able to grow. So Doug, I appreciate you sharing that with me for sure. All right. You ready for rapid fire?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. So do you get up early or stay up late?
Early for sure.
How many hours of sleep do you get on average?
Well, it's funny, Ross, when you say stay up late, but I probably average no more than about 6 to 7 hours a night. So I don't stay up real late, but I'm up early.
Yeah. Favorite or the most recent book that you've read?
Well, you know, Ross, one thing I like going back to, there's a book called How to Influence and Influence People. And that's a book, I've read it many times, but every time you read it, as you change and grow in life, the book changes, what comes out of that book and what feeds you changes. So that's one book that I really enjoy that I go back to.
I'll make sure that book is in the show notes as well with a link right to it. What is something that everyone should do less of?
I hate to say it, Ross, but I really believe a lot of social media can be a big one, and watching TV. So, getting out away from that screen time would be the key.
What is something everyone should do more of?
Well, obviously, big important thing to me is spend time with family, quality time, making memories. That's something that's important to me. I think you'll look back, your family will remember the time you spent, not necessarily the things you bought. So I like creating memories. Will
people live on Mars in your lifetime?
Ross, I didn't think so, but it's looking more and more like it. I know there's supposed to be some travel headed up there. I don't think there'll be a permanent colony, but I think we will probably have someone on Mars in my lifetime.
Doug, thank you so very much for spending time with us and everyone in the Connected Investors community. If you're listening to this, you need to go over to YouTube and subscribe, because I'm going to go ahead and show you some things here at the end of this call that if you're just listening to, you don't get to see all the interaction, all the interactive visuals that are popping up. So subscribe to this, rate our podcast if you like it. Please let us know what you want to know exactly how to do. So what you need to do to go ahead and get all of these notes, to get access to all of the tips, the checklist, the action plan, is visit connectedinvestors.com/how, and you'll have it all right there right now. You can even look at our past events, and you can see the free gifts we gave away there, and you can figure out what the next show you might want to watch is right at connectedinvestors.com/how, and you can throw your name in the hat to be the next $3,000 winner of our new pre-MLS software. So thank you so very much again, Doug, for being on the call, and I look forward to seeing all of you on the inside.
The Connected Investors app connects you with investors, notifies you of available properties, helps locate cash buyers, and secure private funding to close deals. Set up in seconds to become a member of the Connected Investors social network. Now you can scroll through your main feed to find cash buyers, see investment properties not available to the general public, and network with investors by adding your own comments to a thread to keep the conversation going. The Control Center is your connection to add properties to sell, start new discussions, connect with local investors, and even find private funding. The Notifications tab will keep you alerted to new investment properties and offers. You'll also find new friend requests to connect directly with the community to build your network. From the property marketplace, you'll be able to find, favorite, and make offers on investment properties. Download Connected Investors today to find, figure, fund, and flip investment properties on the go.